Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 18a. Daf 18a at the top of the Amud, at the top of the page, with the words Behitis Tzroros. The dispute concerns a case where the chicken propelled pebbles from underfoot as it was hopping. And it is with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute of Sumchus and the rabbis, cited earlier, that the Tanaim in the Braita disagree. One Tana holds that the owner pays the full cost of the damage for pebbles propelled by an animal in the course of its walking, and the other Tana holds that its owner pays half the cost of the damage. Tashima, the Gemara suggests, come in here, an additional attempt to resolve the dilemma from a Braita. Tarnagolin shehayu mechatatin bechevel dali. In a case where chickens were pecking at the rope, tied to a bucket, and the rope was severed, and the bucket fell and broke, the owner of the chickens pays the full cost of the damage. Conclude from the Braita that we follow the initial actions, the action that ultimately led to the damage, in determining liability for damage. The Gemara rejects this conclusion, and one cannot adduce proof from the Braita. Interpret instead that the reference in the Braita is to the damage caused to the rope, while the owner pays only half the cost of the damage for breaking the bucket. V'ha chevel mishunahu dimaus belisha. The Gemara asks, but isn't eating a rope atypical behavior for a chicken, and therefore it should be classified within the primary category of goring and not the primary category of eating? Why then must the owner of the chicken pay the full cost of the damage? The Gemara answers, the reference in the Braita is to a case where the rope was filthy, ma'us, with kneaded dough, and in those circumstances it is typical for a chicken to peck at it. The Gemara asks, but doesn't the Tana teach in the Braita, and the bucket broke, indicating that the dispute is with regard to damage done to the bucket and not to the rope? The Gemara explains, rather, this brisa is in accordance with the opinion of Sumchus, who says, in the case of pebbles propelled by an animal, the owner pays the full cost of the damage. The Gemara asks, if it is in accordance with the opinion of Sumchus, say the latter clause of the Braita. If a shard was propelled from the bucket, broken by a chicken, and it fell upon another vessel and broke it, probably never happened. Probably never happened ever. But just in case, just if it did happen, the owner of the chicken pays the full cost of the damage for the first vessel, and half the cost of the damage for the second one. And if the Braita is in accordance with the opinion of Sumchus, is he of the opinion that one pays half the cost of the damage caused by pebbles? And if you would say that there is a difference, according to Sumchus, between damage resulting from a force generated by the animal's action, for example, pebbles, and damage caused by a force generated by its action, for example, damage caused by the shard of the bucket, and in the latter case, Sumchus concedes that the owner pays half the cost of the damage, that would result in difficulty. The Gemara asks, but what of this dilemma raised by Rav Ashi, according to the opinion of Sumchus? What is the halacha with regard to damage caused by a force generated by a force generated by the animal's action. So it's like kli shlishi, actually. Is the status of that secondary force like that damage caused by maybe klisheni? I mean, it's arguable, debatable. But anyway, is the status of that secondary force like that damage caused by a force generated by its action, in which case the owner is liable, or is its status not like that of damage caused by a force generated by its action? Why did Rav Ashi state his dilemma? Why did he not resolve the dilemma and conclude that according to Sumchus, its status is not like that of damage caused by a force generated by its action? Since Rav Ashi does not resolve the dilemma based on this Braita, apparently Sumchus does not distinguish between the two types of force. The Gemara suggests, rather, it is not so, that this Braisa is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, and conclude from the Braita that we follow the initial action that ultimately led to the damage when determining one's liability for the damage. Therefore, an owner is liable for any damage resulting from his animal's typical behavior, and he pays the full cost of the damage done to the bucket, even if the damage took place in another location. Rav Bivi bar Abayas said there is no proof from the Braita, as it could be explained that the reference in the Braita is to a case where the bucket is continually propelled from the impetus of the chicken who caused the bucket to break. That is why the ruling in the Braita is that the owner of the chicken pays the full cost of the damage. The dilemma with regard to the case where an animal treads upon a vessel that rolls away and breaks elsewhere remains unresolved. Rava raises a dilemma with regard to one's liability to pay half the cost of the damage caused by pebbles. So chatzi nezik sroros migufo mishalem o me'aliyah mishalem. Okay, does he pay from the body, meaning only what the animal's worth, or does he pay from superior quality land? Does he pay from the body of the animal, as we do not find any case where one pays half the cost of the damage from superior quality land, or perhaps he pays restitution from the superior quality land, as we do not find any case where an animal causes damage in its typical manner, where the owner pays restitution exclusively from the body of his animal. So the Gemara tries to answer Rava's dilemma. The Gemara suggests, come and hear a Braita. Come and hear, let us attempt a resolution to this dilemma, attempt to bring a resolution to this dilemma from a Braita. With regard to hopping, a chicken is not deemed forewarned, and some say that it is forewarned. The Gemara questions the formulation of the Braita. Does it enter your mind to raise the possibility that a chicken is not forewarned with regard to hopping? Hopping is the typical manner of movement for chickens. Rather, is it not that the reference in the Braita is to a case where the chicken was hopping and propelled pebbles that caused the damage? Uveha kamiflagi. And with regard to this matter, do they disagree? The ones that man da'amar eina muad kasavar meguf mishalem, uman da'amar muad kasavar ma'ali mishalem. The one who says that the chicken is not deemed forewarned holds that its owner pays restitution from the body of the animal, as is the halacha when an innocuous animal gores, while one who says that the chicken is forewarned holds that he pays restitution from his superior quality land, as is the halacha when a forewarned animal causes damage. According to this analysis, Rava's dilemma is subject of a Tanaitic dispute. In other words, a dispute of Tanaim. La, beplukta de sumchas v'rabanan kamiflagi. No. The dispute in perhaps the dispute in the Braita is with regard to the issue that is subject to the dispute of Sumchas and the rabbis with regard to the legal status of damage caused by a force generated by the animal's action. It is with regard to the similarity of damage caused by an action performed by an animal's body to the case where the chicken was hopping and propelled pebbles that caused the damage that the Tanaim in the Braita disagree. Tashema, the Gemara suggests, come and hear a resolution of this dilemma from a Mishnah on 21b. If the dog took a loaf that was baking on hot coals and went to a stack of grain to eat the loaf, and the dog ate the loaf and ignited the stack of grain with one of the coals attached to the loaf, the owner of the dog pays the full cost of the damage for the damage to the loaf, as it is classified in the primary category of eating, and he pays half the cost of the damage for the damage to the stack of grain. Rabbi Elazar says he pays the full cost of the damage for the damage to the stack of grain as well. My Taima, what is the reason that the first Tana holds that the owner pays half the cost of the damage caused to the stack of grain? Is it not due to the fact that it is analogous to propelling pebbles, as the coal fell from the loaf held in its mouth and ignited the grain? And is it taught in a Braita in that regard that when the first Tana said that he pays half the cost of the damage, he pays restitution exclusively from proceeds of the sale of the body of his animal? Apparently, half the cost of the damage caused by pebbles is paid from the body of the animal that caused the damage. The Gemara rejects this explanation. And can you understand the Braita in that way? According to that understanding with regard to Rabbi Elazar, who disagrees with the first Tana and holds that the owner of the dog pays the full cost of the damage caused to the grain, do we find anywhere that according to Rabbi Elazar, one pays restitution exclusively from the proceeds of the sale of the body of his animal? Ela kagon deshani baha gacheles, for Rabbi Elazar kasavar karebi tarfon, amar meshuna karen v'chatzar hanizik nezik shalem mishalem. Rather, the Braita can be explained in a case where the dog acted atypically with his coal and with which he lit the stack of grain. Since the dog's behavior was atypical, the damage is classified under the primary category of goring, not under the category of eating. And Rabbi Elazar holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Tarfon, who says in a Mishnah in 24b, the halacha of goring in the courtyard of the injured party is atypical, as there the owner of the ox pays the full cost of the damage, in contrast to half the cost of the damage that he pays when it transpires in a public domain. Nevertheless, since it was an innocuous animal that caused the damage, restitution is paid from his body. And for time, I think we will have to stop it here and pick it up with part B, which will be a very short part B. But in any case, we'll have to do it.